I'm Michael, 38, a heavy equipment mechanic. My wife, Laura, is 35. We've been married 8 years and have a 7-year-old son, Ryan. I found out she was cheating by accident through an old iPad we hadn't used in months. I wasn't even looking for anything. I just wanted to update a game Ryan and I used to play together. But in the photo album, buried among pictures of our kid and old screenshots, there were images that didn't belong. Laura, dressed up in a way she never dressed for me anymore, sitting close to a man I didn't recognize. Her smile in those photos was soft, effortless, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time, the kind I thought I'd done something wrong for missing. It hit me like a slow-moving truck, not all at once, but in pieces, one photo after another. One message thread synced from her phone that she must have forgotten about. Her laugh in a video clip, his hand on her back, the timestamp. A day I remembered clearly because I had worked a double shift and came home to a cold house and a quiet wife. Back then, I chalked it up to stress, to routine, to the weight of parenthood. I blamed myself, even. Maybe I hadn't been present enough. Maybe the long hours were wearing on her more than I realized. But it wasn't that. It wasn't just life getting in the way. It was something else entirely, something she never said out loud, but lived behind my back. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The truth had been sitting in our home the whole time, wearing my t-shirts and drinking my coffee, sleeping beside me in our bed, and I never noticed it wasn't the same truth I fell in love with. This is how it all unraveled. After I found the photos, I just stood there in the kitchen, holding the iPad like it was something fragile, like the weight of what I'd just seen might actually break it. But it wasn't the device that was breaking, it was me. I didn't confront her right away. Not that night. Ryan was already asleep, and Laura had gone to bed early, said she was tired. I watched her for a few seconds from the hallway, the way she curled up under the blanket, turned away from my side of the bed. I didn't know how long she'd been turning away. I just realized it had become normal. I sat in the living room for a long time, replaying the last few months in my head. The little things I'd brushed off. The way she'd stopped reaching for my hand when we walked side by side. How she always seemed distracted, there but not really. Sometimes I'd be talking and notice she wasn't listening. Not out of rudeness, but because her mind was somewhere else. I remembered a night, maybe 6 weeks earlier, when I'd come home from work and she was already dressed to go out. Said she was meeting some old coworkers for drinks. That had surprised me. Laura never really went out much. But I didn't question it. I trusted her. She came home late that night, smelling faintly of wine and something floral that wasn't her usual perfume. I asked her how it was, and she said, fine, in that clipped tone that doesn't invite follow-ups. Then she showered and went to bed without another word. Back then, I told myself I was imagining things, that she just needed space. We all go through phases. That's what I told myself. But the truth is, I was trying not to look too closely, because looking too closely meant risking everything. It meant facing the possibility that the person I built my life with might be quietly stepping out of it, one small betrayal at a time. I started remembering other things too. The change in how she dressed. At first, I thought she was just trying to feel better about herself. Stay-at-home life can feel monotonous. I get that. But then there were times she'd come home in outfits I'd never seen before, with makeup I knew she didn't wear for me. And the phone. God, the phone. Always in her hand. Always face down. Notifications turned off. She used to share funny texts with me, memes, little updates, screenshots from her sister. Lately, it was just silence. Or she'd smile at something, and when I asked what it was, she'd say nothing. I think a part of me already knew, even before the photos. I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be that guy, the one whose wife cheats on him while he's out busting his back to keep the lights on and the fridge full. But that night, sitting alone in a house I thought was safe, I realized I already was. The worst part? I still loved her. That feeling didn't go away just because the truth showed up uninvited. I didn't sleep that night. I just watched the sun rise through the blinds, wondering how long she'd been gone from me, even while sleeping in the same bed. The next morning, I woke up from the couch with my neck stiff and my jaw clenched so hard it ached. I hadn't actually slept, just drifted in and out of this fog where thoughts ran in circles and none of them led anywhere good. I watched her make breakfast like nothing had happened. She stood there in the kitchen, cracking eggs, humming to herself. It was almost impressive how normal she looked, like someone playing the role of a wife, and playing it well. And I sat there across the room, silent, Watching this woman, I thought I knew sprinkled cheese on eggs like she hadn't just burned a hole through my chest. That's when the anger started. At first it was quiet, not shouting, not breaking things, just a heat behind my ribs. A kind of slow, bitter simmer that built with every little motion she made. The way she sipped her coffee, smiled at Ryan, asked me if I needed anything from the store. Like she wasn't carrying a secret the size of a wrecking ball behind her back. I said no. I couldn't look at her for too long without that heat rising up again. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. All those late nights. All those weekends I gave up to keep the bills paid. All the times I came home bone-tired and still tried to be present, helped with homework, fixed the damn toilet, sat through PTA meetings even when my eyes were falling shut. I did all of that for us. For her. So she wouldn't have to stress about money or worry about working full-time. I told her she could take time off, rest, reset. I backed her when she said she needed a break from her job, even if it meant stretching ourselves thinner. And while I was killing myself to give her room to breathe, she was off somewhere else, giving herself to someone who didn't earn it. That's what really cut deep. The disrespect of it. Not just to me, but to our son. To this life we built. I was out there every day, working through heat, rain, busted knuckles and diesel fumes, and she was, what? Lying to my face? Coming home to our house like she wasn't sneaking around in someone else's bed? I thought about confronting her right then and there. I could have held up the iPad, shown her the pictures, the texts, the proof. I could have demanded answers, made her stammer, forced the truth out of her mouth. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. I already knew the script. She'd say she was lonely, that I wasn't around enough, that we drifted, that she didn't mean for it to happen. And maybe all that would be true in some twisted way. But it didn't matter. Not really. There's always a choice. She made hers. And the more I sat with that, the more the sadness started to turn into something harder, something sharper. Anger wasn't what I wanted to feel, but it felt a hell of a lot better than feeling stupid. That weekend was one of the hardest of my life. It was like I was living in a movie, playing a role I didn't believe in anymore. I went through the motions, breakfast, laundry, a trip to the hardware store, all while carrying this raw, festering knowledge just under the surface. She acted normal, almost too normal, smiling more than usual, touching my arm and passing like we were still us. I kept waiting for her to slip, for her to say something that would make it easier to throw it all on the table. But she didn't. She was careful. That made it worse. She asked if I wanted to take Ryan to the park on Sunday, like she always did when she wanted time to herself. I used to think she just needed space. Time to read, maybe nap, but now I knew better. I said sure, of course. I took him out for ice cream too, because I needed the distraction, and he deserved better than what was going on between his parents. While we were sitting on a bench, Ryan asked if we could do another boys' day soon. Said he liked it when it was just the two of us. He smiled like nothing in his world was wrong, and I felt something twist in my chest so hard I thought I might lose it right there in front of him. I nodded and told him, of course. And I meant it. Whatever happened next, I'd protect that kid from the fallout. He didn't choose any of this. When we got home, Laura was in a different outfit than she'd left the house in earlier. Hair freshly washed. That same light perfume she wore the night she came home late. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't stupid anymore. She kissed me on the cheek as I came through the door, and I had to fight every urge not to pull away. That night, she made dinner. Chicken and roasted vegetables, her go-to when she wanted to feel put together. She poured herself a glass of wine, acted relaxed, talked about some shows she wanted to watch together. For a moment, I wondered if she knew I knew, if she was trying to smooth things over before it blew up. But no, her face was too calm, too practiced, and I just sat there, chewing my food like it didn't taste like ash. I started noticing everything. How she texted quickly and tilted her phone away from view. How she left the room when she answered calls. How she smiled when she thought no one was looking. Not a warm smile, but a private one. The kind people have when they're holding a secret close to their chest. I wasn't ready to confront her yet, but I was close. I needed to be sure. I needed to see it for myself, because part of me still didn't want to believe it. Even with everything I found, some part of me was still hoping I was wrong. That this wasn't what it looked like. That maybe it was emotional and not physical. That maybe it hadn't gone too far. But deep down, I already knew better. And the truth was, I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself for not noticing sooner, for working myself to the bone while she was slipping away, for trusting too easily, for being the guy who thought love and effort would always be enough. Turns out, they weren't. By Monday, I couldn't sit still anymore. Something had shifted in me, not just emotionally, but mentally. I stopped second-guessing myself. I stopped telling myself I needed to wait. I wasn't just a husband with a bad feeling anymore. I was a man who'd already seen too much to keep pretending. I didn't want to be a snoop. That's never who I was in our relationship. We trusted each other. Or at least, I trusted her. But at some point, when someone lies to your face and smiles while doing it, you stop playing by the old rules. I started small. I watched her, not in a creepy way, just carefully, noted how she reacted to things. When she left the room to take a call, when she claimed she was heading to the store and took 90 minutes to return with one grocery bag, when she suddenly had to catch up with old coworkers more often than ever, even though she hadn't worked there in months. I checked the iPad again, too, dug deeper, found more texts in the archive that hadn't been deleted from the cloud, conversations between her and him. His name was Aaron, apparently. I remembered her mentioning him once, a long time ago, back when she still worked at the agency. Just a coworker, she'd said. Just a friend. They didn't talk like friends. Some messages were tame. Inside jokes. Flirty banter. But others cut deep. Mentions of how she missed him. How it felt right when they were together. One message that simply said, "I wish you were here instead." That one broke me a little. She'd sent it on a Thursday night. The same night, I came home late to find Ryan alone on the couch and her gone. The same night, I reheated a frozen dinner and sat in silence while wondering what I'd done wrong. I wasn't wrong. She was with him. And not just emotionally. I knew that now. No matter how much I tried to downplay it in my head, no matter how much I told myself maybe it hadn't gone that far, the truth was there in black and white. She'd left our son alone to be with another man. Not once, but regularly. And that's when the anger came back, stronger this time, because now it had weight behind it. Not just suspicion, not just theory. This was confirmation. Cold, real, ugly. I didn't confront her that night either. I was close, but I held it in. I think I needed one more thing. Something in person. A detail she couldn't deny or talk her way out of. So I made a plan. The next time she said she was going out, errands, coffee, me time, whatever excuse she gave, I'd follow. Not because I wanted to be some jealous, stalking husband. Because I needed the truth. I needed to see it with my own eyes. So when she casually mentioned she was going to meet a friend for lunch on Wednesday, I nodded and told her to enjoy. I smiled even, kissed her on the cheek, and then I waited. She left the house around noon on Wednesday. Said she was meeting an old co-worker for lunch. Just catching up. She wore a light blue blouse I hadn't seen in a while. The one she used to save for work presentations or nights out. Hair done. Makeup subtle but clearly intentional. She didn't know I was watching her closely now. Every little choice felt like a message. I told her to have fun, kissed her on the cheek, and smiled like a man who didn't know. Like a fool. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys and got in the truck. I didn't have a plan beyond that. I just hoped she wasn't too far ahead. Luckily, I spotted her at the main intersection near the freeway. I hung back 2 or 3 cars behind, trying not to get too close, keeping calm. It wasn't hard. I'd spent the last few weeks learning how to hide what I felt. She drove past the downtown strip, where the cafes and brunch spots were. She didn't stop, kept going through the old industrial side of town, and turned into a parking lot beside a quiet little hotel. Not a chain. One of those tucked-away places with outdoor hallways and rooms facing the lot. I knew it existed, but I'd never had a reason to pay it any mind. Until now. She parked. I pulled into the gas station across the street and turned off the engine. Watched from behind my windshield. My heart was pounding. Not fast, but heavy, like it had grown twice its size and didn't fit in my chest anymore. A few minutes later, another car pulled in beside hers. I recognized the guy from the photos. Tall, clean-cut, button-down shirt with sleeves rolled up. Aaron. He got out, smiled, and walked over to her door. She stepped out and hugged him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Not a friendly hug. A slow, full-body kind of hug. Like they missed each other. He kissed her on the cheek. She laughed. They exchanged a few words, then walked together toward one of the rooms. He opened the door. She walked in first. And that was it. Door closed. Curtains drawn. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just sat there in my truck, staring at the spot where she disappeared, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even breathe for a minute. It was weird how quiet betrayal looks from the outside. Just two people walking into a building. No lightning strike. No dramatic music. Just silence. But inside me, something collapsed. It's one thing to see messages, to read words and guess, to wonder, hope, deny. It's another to see your wife walk into a hotel room in the middle of the day with another man. I sat there for close to an hour, not watching the door, just staring at the cracked dashboard of my truck, wondering what the hell I was going to do next. If I should go home, call her, walk in and catch them red-handed, scream, fall apart, or drive until I ran out of road. I didn't do any of those things. Eventually, I just started the engine and drove away, because I wasn't ready yet, not to confront her, not to explain to my son why his mom wasn't who we thought she was, and not to face what it meant for the life I thought I had. The drive home felt like it took hours, even though I know it couldn't have been more than 20 minutes. I don't remember stopping at any lights. I don't remember the turns. Just white lines on the road and that dull sound of the tires humming under me. I parked in front of the house and just sat there for a while, watching the front door, wondering what it would feel like to walk back and like nothing had happened, to go on pretending. But I did it anyway. When I stepped inside, the house smelled like dryer sheets and lemon cleaner. Laura had probably done laundry before she left. Everything looked normal. That was the sickest part of all this. How normal everything still looked while everything inside me felt like it had cracked in two. Ryan was in his room playing with Legos. I sat with him for a bit, helped him build some kind of spaceship. He asked if Mom was home. I told him not yet. He didn't think anything of it, just kept building. That innocence made my throat tighten. He had no idea his family was a ticking time bomb. She got back an hour later, gave me a quick smile, said lunch had been nice. Then she asked if I could pick up a few groceries the next day. Just like that. No guilt in her voice. No weight in her eyes. She didn't seem lighter or guiltier or nervous. She was calm, practiced, polished. I started to wonder just how long she'd been carrying this lie. Weeks? Months? Longer? That night we had dinner like a regular family. She asked Ryan about school, laughed at one of his weird little stories. She even reached across the table and touched my hand at one point. I didn't pull away, but inside something recoiled. It's a strange thing sitting across from someone you used to know, realizing you don't know them at all anymore. Later, after Ryan went to bed, we ended up in our bedroom, brushing our teeth side by side. She started talking about some shows she wanted to binge together. Said we hadn't spent much time, just the two of us, lately. I nodded. I even smiled. And that's when it really hit me how easy it had become for me to lie back. Because I had to. Because I wasn't ready to blow it all up, not without knowing how to handle the fallout. Because part of me, the part one hated, still wanted to believe she'd come clean on her own. That maybe, even now, she'd break down and admit it. That she'd cry, apologize, give me some version of the truth that would hurt, sure, but also let me breathe again. Something I could work with, something I could forgive. But she didn't. We got into bed like we always did. Lights off, her head on her pillow, back turned to me. She was asleep within minutes. And I lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, barely breathing. The weight of the truth pressing down on my chest, crushing everything I thought I knew about my life, my wife, and myself. I wasn't just married to someone who cheated. I was sleeping next to a stranger who didn't even flinch while doing it. The days after I saw her with him were some of the hardest of my life, not because I doubted what I saw, but because I didn't know what to do with it. There's this space you get stuck in when you know the truth but haven't said it out loud yet. You're not in denial anymore, but you're not in action either. You're just frozen, pretending, numb. Every moment feels like you're watching yourself from the outside, playing the role of a husband, when all you really are is a man bleeding on the inside, trying not to make a mess. Laura kept smiling, kept texting in the kitchen with her back to me, kept laughing at shows like she wasn't living a double life. I started to study her, not just her behavior, but her lies. How easily they came. How she never tripped over them. It made me wonder how many times before she'd told me something and I took it at face value, never thinking twice. She made plans for the weekend. Said we should go to the pumpkin patch as a family. Ryan would love that, she said. He probably would. And I said yes. Not because I wanted to. Because I didn't know how to say no without saying everything. That Friday night, I stood outside in the garage, the only place that still felt mine. I had a wrench in one hand and no idea why. I wasn't fixing anything. I just needed something to hold on to. Something heavy. Something real. That's when I seriously thought about packing a bag and leaving. Not forever. Just enough to make a point. Enough to wake her up. Let her sit in the silence for once. But then I thought of Ryan, waking up on Saturday asking where I was. Wondering why Dad missed the pumpkin patch. And I stayed. Not for her. For him. Because whatever happened between me and Laura, he didn't ask for any of it. He just wanted to carve a jack-o'-lantern and drink hot apple cider with his parents like nothing was wrong. That night, she came into the garage for the first time in weeks. Asked what I was doing. I said I was just thinking. She stood there for a second. Said it was getting cold and I should come inside. And then she did something that nearly shattered me. She kissed me. Slow. Long. Like we hadn't been growing apart for months. Like she hadn't just walked out of a hotel room with another man 2 days ago. I stood still. Didn't kiss back. She pulled away and gave me this little smile like everything was okay again. And I realized something terrifying. She wasn't planning to tell me. Ever. Not if she could help it. This wasn't a mistake she was struggling with. This was a choice. Repeated. Hidden. Protected. She was going to keep living both lives for as long as I let her. That was the moment I knew I couldn't wait much longer. The confrontation was coming. And when it did, nothing would be the same after. I didn't plan it. I'd imagined it a dozen different ways. Her sitting on the couch. Me dropping the evidence in front of her. Maybe yelling. Maybe crying. Maybe both. But when it actually happened, it wasn't some big scene. It just slipped out. It was Saturday morning. She was making pancakes. Ryan was still in his room, humming to himself while building something out of cardboard. Laura stood at the stove, flipping a pancake like it was just another weekend. She asked if I wanted coffee, and I said, without thinking, how long has it been going on? She didn't turn around at first, just froze. Spatula in her hand, her body still. I said it again, slower. How long, Laura? She turned then. Her face was pale. Not confused, not even surprised. Just blank. That was all I needed to know. She knew exactly what I meant. There was a pause, like the whole world stopped moving for a second. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "It's not what you think." That phrase, it made something in me snap. I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. Not what I think. I'd seen the photos. I'd read the messages. I watched her walk into that hotel room. I told her everything. That I saw the texts. The pictures. That I followed her. That I saw them together. She sat down at the table without a word. Just lowered her head into her hands. I asked again, how long? She finally spoke. Said it started a few months ago. That it just happened. That she felt lonely, disconnected, like we were drifting. All the things I expected her to say. All the things I knew were coming. I asked her if it was still going on. She didn't answer. Just looked at me with tears starting to form. That silence was enough. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, shaking. Not from rage, but from grief. From the weight of everything I'd been holding inside for weeks. Maybe months. I asked her one more thing. Did you ever plan to tell me? She shook her head. That hurt the most. Not just that she cheated, but that she would have gone on pretending forever. Sleeping beside me, laughing in my face. Letting me make her coffee in the mornings while she snuck around with another man behind my back. Ryan came into the room then, rubbing his eyes, asking what was for breakfast. Laura wiped her face fast and got up, trying to pull it together. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't sit at the same table anymore. I walked out, not because I was done, but because I needed to breathe, because the woman I loved had become a stranger. And now, there was no going back. I sat in my truck for hours that day. Didn't turn the engine on. Didn't check my phone. Just sat there in the driveway, staring out at the street like it might offer answers I hadn't already torn myself apart looking for. Inside the house, I could still hear Ryan's muffled laughter, the clatter of dishes, the hum of a life pretending to still be whole. But it wasn't. And I couldn't go back in yet. I wasn't ready to look at her again. Not after that morning. Not after hearing her admit she'd never planned to tell me. That she would have just kept living both lives, dragging me and Ryan along like props in a show she no longer believed in. That broke something. I didn't even know what I was waiting for out there. Maybe for her to come out and say something. Maybe to apologize in a way that actually felt like truth. Maybe just for time to pass, enough of it so I wouldn't say something I couldn't take back. But she didn't come out. She gave me space. Maybe for the first time in months, she was finally aware of how far gone I really was. I went back in when the sun started going down. Ryan was on the couch with a blanket and a tablet. Laura was in the kitchen, wiping the same spot on the counter over and over like it might erase what happened. She looked at me, eyes red. I looked back, and for the first time, I saw someone who was truly scared. Not of me, but of what she'd done, of what she was about to lose. She started to speak, but I held up a hand, told her we'd talk later. Not in front of Ryan. She nodded, didn't argue. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't come in, and I was glad, because I couldn't take more lies, more half-truths, more silence pretending to be peace. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering how we got here, how the woman I used to laugh with in the car on late-night drives had turned into someone who could look me in the eye while hiding a whole other life. And maybe the scarier part was wondering if she'd always been capable of it, and I just never saw it. The next morning, she asked if we could talk. We sat across from each other in the living room. No yelling, no blame shifting. She admitted to everything, said it had been going on longer than she let on, that she didn't know why she did it, only that she felt unseen, that she liked who she was when she was with him, that it made her feel alive. I wanted to ask her if she felt alive now, watching me pull away, watching our family fracture under the weight of her choices. But I didn't. I asked her if she loved him. She didn't answer. I asked her if she still loved me. She said she didn't know. That was the final nail. Not the cheating, not the lying, but that. Because I knew, through everything, all the silence, all the pain, all the betrayal, I had still loved her, even when it was destroying me. And now I realized she hadn't felt the same for a long time. It all snapped 3 nights later. I was in the kitchen, late, barely functioning. I'd been pretending all week, holding it together for Ryan, nodding along to conversations I wasn't hearing, moving through the house like a ghost in work boots. Laura came in around 10. I thought she was asleep. Her face was drawn, tired, but there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of hope, maybe, or just desperation. She stood there for a moment, watching me rinse out a cup I didn't even remember using. Then she said it. I want to try to fix this. I turned so fast I almost knocked the cup out of the sink. That sentence, fix this, it was like a match to gasoline. My chest felt like it cracked open. Fix this? My voice came out low, but it shook. You want to fix this now? She started crying again, but it didn't hit me like before. I wasn't moved. I wasn't pulled in by guilt. I was angry. No, furious, and underneath that, panicked. Because for a second, I wanted to believe her. That's what scared me. That even after everything, I still wanted her to mean it. You slept with someone else, I said. My voice broke on the word slept, and I hated how weak I sounded. You lied to me. Over and over. You let me hold you, look you in the eye, while you were with him. She started saying she was sorry again, that she was confused, that she didn't want to lose our family. But none of it landed. It all sounded like echoes of a person who should have cared before she blew it up. I begged for scraps, I snapped. I came home every night thinking maybe I wasn't doing enough. I blamed myself. I apologized to you for being tired. And all that time, you were lying to my face. She tried to move toward me, and I stepped back like I'd been burned. That's when it got real for her. She stopped talking. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I think she finally saw me. Not the husband, not the fallback, not the one who would carry the guilt for both of us. She saw the man who had finally run out of reasons to stay quiet. I don't know what happens next, I said. But I can't look at you and pretend I'm okay. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since the day I found that damn photo. She asked where I was going. I didn't know. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't grab anything but my keys and wallet. I just walked out. I drove around for an hour, maybe more. No music. No destination. My hands were shaking on the wheel. At one point, I pulled over and screamed. Just screamed into the empty car, my throat raw by the end of it. It wasn't just anger. It was panic, grief, confusion. Everything tangled together in one violent, collapsing knot. What do you do when the life you built is still standing? the house, the photos, the bed, but none of it feels like yours anymore. What do you do when the person you trusted most is the one who broke you? I sat there on the side of that dark road, watching headlights blur past me, and I realized something brutal. There was no going back, and whatever came next, I had to face it on my own. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. I stayed in a cheap motel on the edge of town, one of those places with buzzing lights and thin walls, where the silence doesn't feel peaceful, just hollow. I laid on the bed staring at the ceiling, my mind playing every scene on repeat. Her laugh, her silence, that hotel parking lot, and Ryan. That was the one that gutted me most. He didn't know. Not yet, but he would, sooner or later. And I kept asking myself how I'd explain it to him without wrecking his whole world. How do you tell your son that love doesn't always keep people honest? That sometimes the person you trust the most can be the one who hurts you the worst? By morning, the anger had quieted. What replaced it wasn't forgiveness, just exhaustion. The kind that settles deep in your bones and doesn't leave, even after rest. I came home around 8 a.m., unsure of what I'd walk into. Laura was already up, sitting at the kitchen table like she had been waiting. She looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I just saw her differently now. I told her I needed time, that I'd be staying at my brother's for a while. She didn't argue. She just nodded, like she already knew this was coming. I packed a bag. Nothing dramatic. Just clothes, a toothbrush, a few things that made me feel like me. Ryan asked where I was going. I told him I had work to do with Uncle Dave. I smiled. He smiled back. Kids believe what you give them, for a while at least. Before I left, I stood in the doorway and looked around the house one more time. The photos on the walls, the half-dead plant by the window, Ryan's sneakers in the hallway. It all looked the same, but it didn't feel like home anymore. I used to think love could survive anything. Distance, exhaustion, hardship. But betrayal? That's different. That plants doubt where trust once lived. It makes you question everything, even the good memories. And once that seed is in your heart, nothing feels certain anymore. So I walked away. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. Because some things, once broken, don't get put back together. And sometimes the hardest thing isn't leaving. It's accepting that the person you thought would never hurt you already has. And they did it with their eyes open.